Hi everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Keelan Upadhyaya. I'm the current president of the GBITE, and I'd like to welcome you all to our presentation for today. Before we start, I'd like to begin with the land acknowledgement for the City of Burnaby. Burnaby is located on the ancestral and unceded territory of the Hunkaminam and Squamish-speaking peoples. So today's presentation for you all is an interesting one. It's focused on the City of Burnaby's Road Safety Network Screening Study. The project is also the recipient of our Road Safety Project of the Year Award, and the purpose of the study was essentially to identify Burnaby's top high collision intersections, as well as safety improvements and capital funding priorities. It was prepared in partnership with ISL Engineering and GHEC Engineering Consultants. So now to introduce our speakers for today, Borg Chan and James Lau. Borg is the Manager of Traffic Engineering and Road Safety for ISL. He has over 35 years of experience in road safety, transportation engineering studies, and transportation planning. He is also one of the past presidents of ITE Greater Vancouver. James Lau is the Senior Transportation Engineer with over 10 years of experience in transportation planning, traffic operations, parking reviews, and road safety initiatives. For the city, he is also responsible for the review and assessment of traffic management, road safety initiatives, and traffic data and operations. So I think this presentation provides a unique opportunity for all of us attending to gain some insight into how the City of Burnaby is addressing road safety, especially since more and more municipalities are now looking at innovative ways to approach road safety, as well as looking at Vision Zero. So for this presentation, we'll take the questions at the end. And without further ado, I'll hand it off to James and Borg to deliver this presentation. Thank you. Yep, please go ahead.
Okay, I'll leave James go ahead. Hi everyone, sorry about that delay, technical difficulties. Good afternoon, my name is James Lau, Senior Transportation Engineer at the City of Burnaby, and I just want to say thank you for taking the time for your precious lunch hour to tune into this presentation about the City of Burnaby's Road Safety Network Screening Study. I'm delighted to be presenting here today with Borg Chan, the Manager of Traffic Engineering and Road Safety at ISL Engineering. So before we start, I would like to take a moment to recognize that I am joining you from the City of Burnaby, where we are on the ancestral and unceded homelands of the Hunkaminam and Squamish-speaking people, and to extend appreciation for the opportunity to hold a meeting on this shared territory. So here's a little bit of a brief presentation agenda. Today I'll be talking to you about the reason why the city ventured into completing this study, along with its key objectives. We'll be looking at also the study methodology, along with how we selected the different intersections that we're looking at. Then I'll pass it along to Borg, who will go into detail of the road network screening procedure, followed by a case study for one of the intersections, along with key project takeaways. I'll then wrap it up with some of the city's plans for its next steps, and with the time permitted, we'll have some questions and answers. So before I talk about the study itself, I just wanted to give a brief overview of the city. Over the last few decades, Burnaby has really evolved from a rural and suburban community into a significant urban center that is socially, economically, and culturally diverse. The city's population has grown over the years and is the third largest in population in the Lower Mainland, with about 250,000 people. It employs about 148,000 people and has a total road network of 978 kilometers. And within its 98 square kilometer area, it operates 189 fully signalized intersections, 76 PED signals, along with over 4,600 intersections. So why did we venture into doing this study itself? The road safety network screening was really a result of the Connecting Burnaby Transportation Plan. It was adopted by council in December of 2021. And this document guides transportation planning policy and decision making for the next 30 years. In this plan, there are 6 main goals. First one here is to provide all people access to the transportation system, to enable safe and secure movement of all people, goods, and services across all different transportation modes, to support the health and well-being of the community by encouraging, enabling, and empowering people to choose sustainable or active modes of transportation. Also to help direct transportation planning and infrastructure towards green, sustainable modes, and to support Burnaby's economic, environmental, and social prosperity, along with the development of a connected community for both physical and social connections. So we also have 3 main targets here. The first one here is Vision Zero. This goal is to achieve 100% reduction in deaths or serious injuries on Burnaby's transportation network. So in the following sequences, we have by 2030, we would like to achieve 20% reduction. By 2040, 75% reduction. By 2050, 100% reduction. Another ambitious target is our mode split. So half of all trips to be public transit or active transportation by 2030, 2/3 of all trips by 2040, and 3/4 of all trips to be public or active transportation by 2050. And our last target here is zero emissions. So a 45% drop by 2030, 75% drop 2040, and 100% drop by 2050. For this study itself, we're really focusing on the safe and secure mobility along with achieving our Vision Zero target. And so to help us with this study, we retained ISL engineering and GHEC engineering consultants to help us complete this. So just a brief overview of our study objectives. Road safety network screening is one of the most effective methods in identifying and prioritizing where road safety improvement investments should be directed. Fundamentally, our main goal of the road network screening is to improve the overall safety of our intersection. We want to then identify those collision-prone intersections and analyze them to evaluate potential safety improvements. Then we want to develop where potential short, medium, and long-term road safety improvement investments can be allocated to achieve the greatest safety benefits. Lastly, the study will help the city prioritize its capital funding plan for the next 5 years. So I just wanted to go over the approach of the road network safety screening. The first step is to conduct a large gathering of data and also conducting initial analysis. After we do this, the initial analysis, we go into actual selection of the collision-prone intersections by ranking those intersections based on key safety performance indicators. Then when we identify those locations, then we conduct various analysis on collision data and also conduct more site visits to understand the safety issues. And then from those safety issues, we identify countermeasures and mitigation measures as well to see how we can improve these intersections. And from there, we could take it to a concept design and also estimated costs, help determine our capital funding needs. So in our initial data collection, just to give you some context of the numbers we're dealing with here, ISL and their team looked at ICBC data between 2016 and 2020. So in the span of 5 years, there was 88,000 ICBC claims. It was narrowed down to 59,000 intersection and mid-block collisions. And of those 59,000, 40,000 were property damage only. So it leaves us with approximately 19,000 injury and fatal collisions. In this case, I want to highlight the term casualty collisions. So casualty collisions are the ones that involve injuries or fatalities. And within those casualty collisions, we had 35 fatalities and 849 VRU injuries. Another term here is VRU. The acronym VRU stands for Vulnerable Road User Injuries, which basically means anything with pedestrians, cyclists, senior, and children. So 2 terms to really take note of here is casualty collisions and VRU. So here's a graphical representation of the data that shows the trends of the highest density of casualty collisions throughout the city. This figure shows locations with at least one casualty collision in the 5-year period of 2016 to 2020. The areas that are more red are those with the highest casualty collision densities. And as you can see in the map, it is a good indication that various key corridors throughout the city have higher densities, such as Hastings, Willingdon, Kingsway, Highway 1. And so we'll touch on these corridor components a little bit later. So how do we go about ranking the collision-prone intersection? There are 4 safety performance indicators that we look at. And the first one, the most important one here, is the annual casualty collision frequency. So the number of casualty collisions that's occurring per year at those locations. And then these other 3 in the bottom here, fatal collision occurrence, so any fatalities that occur, casualty percentage, which is the number of casualty collisions over the total number of collisions. And lastly, it's the total number of vulnerable road user collisions that occur involving pedestrians and cyclists. And using all 4 of these safety performance indicators, we're able to rank the various intersections into our list. So after we rank the intersections, based on those 4 safety performance indicators, we get a full list of intersections. And so we decided to remove intersections that shared a boundary with other municipalities or are under the Ministry of Transportation jurisdiction. Of course, we want to partner and align with neighboring municipalities in the province for these improvements. But for the interests of the city's capital planning program, it was important to just focus strictly on intersections under full Burnaby jurisdiction. So it was determined that in order to also streamline the design and implementation of this process, that the intersections would be grouped based on corridor-wide improvements, as opposed to individual locations all throughout the city. This resulted in 5 groups along various corridors, with each group having a total of 9 to 11 intersections. So in total, we had a very ambitious plan of reviewing the top 50 intersections throughout the city. So here's just a brief overview and summary of the selected locations. We have Group 1 with Canada Way, Group 2 predominantly along Willingdon Royal Oak, 3 we have Lougheed Highway, Group 4 we have Kingsway and Orange, and Group 5 we have Hastings. So here are the total 50 collision-prone locations. And now I'll pass it along to Borg, who will speak to you more detail about the road network screening process, along with a case study for one of these intersections.
Thank you very much. Thank you, James, and then thank you for all of you and lunch time. Hopefully, there's something for the lunch and also during the lunch. So what we say from James is what the approach we are going to say about identify some of the location, and then we have to identify the 5 group of corridors and also 50 locations. So what we're going to do is doing some road safety review for every intersection in around this area. So we will doing some existing condition review. So that's including some land use or some road cars or some other one. And then we have the detailed condition analysis. This is something like temporary condition. That's mean by day, by time, by year, or something like that. And the condition type is it be a VN or a term of posing, and some contribution factor. And then we're using this information to doing some collision diagram for all 50 locations. Then we will have the field review. That we have at least 3 child safety engineers to visit all the sites and identify what the issue what the issue we identify, and also identify some of the possible improvement in the future for this. Based on that improvement, I can say that you can see the box on the right side. We have categorized for different improvement by operational. That means they have the vehicle, traffic analysis or something like that, the number of vehicle or something like that. Then the geometric, whether the scheme skewed or some missing the turning, or the signal, whether they have left turn phase or what. And I say that by James also, VRU also is very important for us, whether they have enough facility for VRU. And this one, right? Let's press this one. Oh, okay. Oh, that's come earlier. Where my mouse? Okay, let's do it this way. Okay, we say that we're going to develop this in 50 locations. I'm not going to talking 50 locations for this presentation. We're probably talking about until the dinner time. So why don't you just say a one case study? That's in Canada Way and Burris Street. And Canada Way, as I say that remember before, is book one. So that's one the intersection we do fast first. And then Burris Street actually is in the city central area, more or less Burnaby central area, in the Buckingham Heights area. And they will have the border intersection, and also they have signalized on the two locations, but they do have the soft control of the eastbound right hand, and then the different cars, and then Motet and West End area, so we find some information. So, and then each intersection also we prepare something called existing link configuration, including how many links, and using the latest Burnaby map, and also showing the what look like. We also saw some major change in 2016 because our collision data is from 2016 2020. If any change in the geometrical change or even the signal operation change since 2016, they may affecting the collision pattern or affecting our result to identify the issue or improve. Then we also say about we doing a detailed collision analysis. We also every intersection we have something like this one, have the showing some detail for the any collision data and identify some information. And you can see that is we have the distribution, we have chart showing about the yearly annual number of collision. We want to specify that because I think Kim say about that one because the number of the collision is so there's a loss of number of collision if you're going to see that everyone. For this level screening study, we focus on casualty collision. I think this is represented. That's what look like the issue in that particular location. Also, the distribution you can see that there's a sum of the annual one, the day of work, and also the time. We're using ICBC time calculate, so you can see that's 3 hours for each time period, and also the collision type. We're also using the different collision type to based on the ICBC data. UN left turn. This is a signal intersection for Canada Way and Burris, so you can expect the UN also will be usually the highest one. But left turn opposing is still around 20%. So we know that this may be an issue. And then right turn crossing at 4%. So that may be something we need to improve it. So and also we based on the ICBC data, and also we will review all very key about the incident data. So that we will identify that whether the contribution better they have. So going to care or too closely, that's usually the case. Fail to yield a stop, that's probably the right hand one, and then no service. Then we're doing the collision diagram. As I say, that is the collision is quite significant, large amount. So we also decided in the city we focus on the recent 3 years. So we're using 2018, 2020. Even that this intersection we found that they have the 100 collision to look after, and 82 we can identify that. The 18 we can't identify that is mainly because they not sufficient information. That's been unknown the location or what direction they don't have it. And then the collision diagram is look like this one. You can see that it's a majority collision probably in the lot. We can say east, westbound UN. You can see that quite a few here, and also some left turn opposing for the east-west left turn. Then we're doing the field review. So also we take a tons of the photos for the field review because they can be using for that, and then we stay there for a while time and then see what the config is here. So you can see that here is possibly 2 config here for the car turning, the truck turning at the yellow time, and the people maybe speed up. And then you can see the slope from the various and from the Canada Way. Also, we're making the cars faster, and also the right turn in here. You can show here to what expected. As I say, that is we will drive through and walk through this area, take photos for the experienced most safety reviewer. We only in here we only show the vehicle, but actually for we don't not only see the vehicle, also the pedestrian, bicycle, we also need to have a look all the VRU one. And all the site visit sample, we are based on the TAP road safety manual. Consider. Then we're doing some potential road safety issue for that intersection. So you can see that summarized, somewhere I said before, the wheel end, and also the left turn and the right turn crossing, skewed approach, and also some limited signal head visibility, and also the pedestrian facility may not be sufficient, and also some street lighting. We go in the nighttime, we found that it's an issue. So anyway, we summarize everything to be going to move it to the next step. That is going to development the mitigation measure. So before we development, we have some actual the mitigation measure. We have some idea to see that what we're going to do. We need to make sure that that development improvement is achievable and cost effective. You can build an overpass or something like that, but they may not be achievable, maybe the cost effective. So we will screen out that's possible, or maybe not screen out, as you say, that they put it to reserve or something like that. And then the main point is reducing custody for this condition. So it depends on the number of conditions and that particular movement, we try to do it. Also, because of the land, we can't do quite significant widen or moving the type or building one about in some lots of land there. Sometimes we can't do it, sometimes we can do it, but that's in some land availability. We will talk to city and make sure we got enough land to do it. Traffic operation. We do need to do the Excel analysis here, but we do have based on the traffic volume. We have what's the traffic volume moving, and then what's the best way to do it for the improvement. So we say that before condition patterns. And based on this one, we do actually doing some short term, medium term, the long term here. So this is some example. Some example what the improvement we're going to do it. So for example, in the wheel end, in the overall the wheel end, which target for the issue. We will do some, say, optimized signal progression, anti-skip payment or some other one. Left turn, we're adding yellow backboard and then making the protect visit to protect the only face. And right turn crossing, also a little bit for the site specific or location specific to do improvement. And then skill that also we do something. I'm not going detail for this each countermeasure because we will see what we can do afterwards. Okay, see, talking about what we can do. We ideated here, but we need to put it in the plan and show what to do. So this is the plan. We can show it for the conceptual idea, how to improve it. Also, you see there's some box here. I'm not going to detail on this box, but that's the one we propose to the city idea. But we still training because probably in the preliminary design or detailed design, they may find more issue or not many issue or challenge or some limitation. We can do it. So, but at least we see that what happening in the conceptual design. Based on this conceptual design, we also provide some cost estimate based on the latest cost flow that from the city and also from the region. Okay, that's what we got in some for next step. But before I left the team to talk about next step to do, I just very briefly talk about what takeaway we have. Number one, I think the takeaway we need to do is early engagement. I think it's good to early engagement with the city because we know that all public sector, we know that what happening or something like what they want, what exactly they need. That actually move to the next one. Customized decision criteria to fit the city goal. I know that in the city here, they want to have 50 location or the corridor, they want to have as priority for the funding, for the future funding. But in the different city, they may have different idea, maybe Vision Zero, or maybe the one for to concentrate on the bicycle or pedestrian or something like that. So we need to identify this one to what's happening there. I didn't show that in this presentation is we do have something called a decision tree, so step by step to what to do or something like that. But that's very detailed. And then we will do data collection. We did so have lots of data collection here. You can see, remember, it's about 88,000 condition data, and some of them is very good. I see because ICBC, we fortunately got ICBC to give us all the data, but we still need to screen it. And we also need to go through some of the past data, police data, and then also some emergency data, emergency vehicle data, but not from this study, but for other study, we need to think about that. What's better or something like that. I'm talking about quality because I say that before there's quite a significant quality here. Then we go back to city and say that, oh, so we screen down some of the focus on some location, some focus on some years, or custody only to take it out. Technical aspect, yeah, what different kind of different not going detail for technical aspect, but we consider what's the priority is one of the technical aspect we consider. We consider the recent committed intersection improvement. I say that before. We will also in the every map we will show the recent change or recent improvement, or not I'm not saying improvement, recent change in the drawings in the layout for the last 5 years of the study period. The bigger affecting condition that because one thing we don't want city to or public sector to spend money to something that already changed, already improved it. And so we really need to see that consider any recent improvement or even the future improvement. Then we can consider whether they could be including in the future the package, the funding package or something. Okay, so at the end of the day, we prepare a report. So that's a report. We're going to do it and together and finalize it. So now before I'm going to give it to James, I just want to thanks to my team, ISL team, so to having it this way, and also GHEC consultant. So now back to James.
Thank you, board. So I just wanted to discuss the city's next steps here. For the next steps, we now have in our plan, or our capital planning program, we have the 2023 to 2027. Now we can carry out the different safety improvements for all 5 groups. We'll also be going through a round of our design process, which will involve the following impacts that needs to be assessed still, including property impacts, First Nations, transit, and other user groups as well. Then we'll be providing, detailed designs into the various concepts as well, and then coming up with the various cost estimates for the scale of the improvements that are being proposed. That will then bring us to our tendering process and construction. And at the end of the day, we're also very excited to work together with other partners and stakeholders and to collaborate with them to improve the safety of our overall road network. So thanks again, everyone, for taking the time in your lunch hour to listen to this presentation. And we'll be more than happy to answer some questions that you may have. Thank you.
So thank you for your presentation, Borg and James. There's a few questions in the chat, and for everyone attending, feel free to continue posing your questions in the chat. So I'll start from the top. Rahim is asking, was there a discussion about whether to include motorcyclists or users of other mobility devices in the definition of VRUs?
Yeah, sure. Bicycle movement or bicycle collision definitely is a VRU. So we do consider VRU, and also it's, as I say that in the map, this one we don't have the bike lane here, but in the other map, in other location, we do show the bike lane and even existing or future bike lane or pathway or something. So that means we do take care about the bicycle facility where they are affecting our selection of the location. Okay.
Yep. Okay. The next question is also from Rahim. It's since the city's Vision Zero goal refers to serious injuries and excludes non-serious injuries, how does this inform your selection and analysis of the crash data?
That's good point. Actually, that's a very good point on that one. As I said that before, is we do the ISL actually do the different level screening, and some level screening focus on the custody, some focus on all every intersection. For this particular location, study, we focus on because city is about idea to vision zero. A team say about that one of the idea they want vision they want to do is vision zero. So that's why we focus on the custody or serious injury in there. If you say that is it whether they have non-serious is also considered, I would say that most of the time with a serious condition it will be bad for the total condition. So it's particular for the high number of that one. But don't make it wrong. We also have some location we did discuss it. Even they have not much serious condition, but we find that they need to be improved in some way in terms of number of the condition. We still also consider in some way. Yep. Hope answer your question, I think.
Thank you. The next question is from Barkley. What is the definition of short, medium, and long term?
Thanks, Barkley, for your question. Short, medium, long term. So short basically means within the next 1 to 3 years. Medium is between 3 and 5 years, and then long term is anything greater than 5 years.
Thank you. The next question is also from Rahim. It is, what about engagement and consultation beyond the city? For example, stakeholder groups or the public?
Yeah, so we haven't done a thorough engagement process yet with different groups. This was really just an internal exercise right now, just to identify those key locations. But we will be looking at our various partners, ICBC, TransLink, and the public as well for various consultations required. So that will all be part of the next steps.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from Gary from CTS. Was the collision data normalized or were decisions made based on absolute values?
Okay. I don't know much about you talk about normalize it, but we do have the base mainly based on what the value we have. So that means we have 5 years collision data. We identify how many number of the collision in terms of the total number, frequency, and also to the various. I think about you probably normalize it. You're talking about the consider the traffic impact or some level, but this intersection, this study, we mainly focus in the number first. The traffic volume, we have a consideration when we do the improvement, but not for the decision on the selection of the location.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is from Alvin. How do you take into account the impacts along the major road network?
Okay, thanks, Alvin, for the question. So the city will, be partnering with TransLink and communicating with them to pursue these various safety improvements, and we'll coordinate with TransLink just to determine the impacts of the MRN. So before we do any of these implemented safety mitigation measures, we'll speak with them for sure.
Thank you. So the next question is from Joey. How do you consider the traffic volumes at the different locations?
Okay, yeah, good. That's been related to my question to Gary before. It's a volume of traffic generally we saw a higher number of the collision. We know about that one, although it's not actual number. But the higher frequency of any casualty collision is more likely that this location have a heavier collision, heavier vehicle volume along the roadway and also at the intersection entering traffic. That's more. It is this study we didn't do it. The traffic operation part, as I say that the city will go into next phase or next step to doing some traffic, more detailed traffic analysis, is identify whether the improvement is justified in detail or to be found anything more issue happening with this. Hope you answer the question. Thanks, Joey.
Thanks. The next question is from Devish. He says, great work and very informative presentation. And his question is, were there any mitigation measures suggested for those issues that didn't appear in the collision data, but were identified or obvious during the site investigation?
Yeah, sure. That's why we need to do the field review. So we not only identify the collision data, but we also doing some field review. Some of them I know that we don't see that directly connection related to heavy collision, but maybe some of them will happen. Just say the visibility for some signal, they may not be people we see that, oh, I haven't seen the signal, so I could, they may not be saying this way, but we can, based on our experience, based on understanding, to provide some idea how to improve it. So yes, we will also including some field review, even they didn't show up in the collision data.
Thank you. So the next question is from Amy. Is there any way to evaluate safety before the collision occurs?
Yeah. Yes, sure, we can do it because evaluate this is more like on the prediction, collision prediction, or some traffic conflict. We say that happening. There is number of study we can do it, and also we can identify that. But this is not the purpose for the level screening. I think level screening is mainly based on the historical data to identify the highest location or collision point location to go for the next step on the review. Amy, hope that answers the question.
Yep, thanks. Another question from Raheem is going back to his original question about different like other mobility devices. He's asking, have you guys considered motorcyclists or scooters using TAS or health data can help distinguish serious from non-serious injuries?
We didn't directly separate the motorcycle and scooter in the study. So if they have anything, so the scooter and the condition, we will using the. I don't 100%, but I think we will the bicycle one. For the motorcycle, we definitely consider as a vehicle of the vehicle condition is considered. Yes, we actually if that's condition related to these two, we will consider. However, is what you're talking about the next point about task data, health data. As I said, ISLO did some work for before, and then we consider the health data and task data. But in here, for the ICBC data is quite significant, quite big amount, and we think that we can enough to consider what happening for this data. So we didn't do in either to task data and health data for this particular Burnaby's the level screening study. Yeah, I think that's the case. And also the health data actually is one challenge for Identity Center for the other project we did for the level screening. We try to find the health data, but the emergency table or the health department told us they can't provide the information because they're using all the resources during the COVID that time. So they were very hard to give some emergency data at that last 4 years data. So that's why we decided not going to the health data to take a long time to identify that information. Yep.
Thank you. We have a question from David Lee. What is the city's monitoring plan of the safety performance for the collision-prone intersections in the future?
That's a great question, David. At the moment, the city doesn't have a definitive plan yet for monitoring. We will look into this. We will look into this to make sure that we're monitoring the safety improvements that's been applied and potentially also add some more infrastructure to be able to verify and maybe monitor it via cameras or whatnot that we can use at our disposal. So it's a very good question that we'll have to discuss internally with our team.
I want to add one thing from James. James, very good answer. I want to add something for David. Is usually we will network screening, and usually we will do them or we recommend that the city do it is about 5 to 6 years. They can redo one more time for the network screening. I understand that we do some study for the other public sector. They do a second time now for the level screening. I think that's important because afterwards, because some improvement, you want to identify the whether they still have same number of collision or is the same the top 50 location or what top collision point location. That's also one very important thing for monitoring what's happening with safety performance of the improvement.
Thank you. We also have another question from David, which is how was regression to the mean that effect factored into the collision analysis?
Hey, this seems to be a challenge for me because I think there's more technical stuff for that one. I maybe to refer to my staff to do it, but I don't think we do it much for the recreation with the mean number because we in this ways is we mainly using the actual number to compare. And I really doubt that we're using the regression number.
Okay,
that's David. That's suggestion.
We have a question from Eric Tam. Did the study recommend any mid-block fixes? If so, could you briefly speak on an example?
Yeah, thanks, Eric, for the question. Just a short answer, no. The study was mainly focusing on the intersections throughout the city, the main intersections. So at this moment, there has been no mid-block fixes and whatnot.
Thank you.
Sorry, I just want to add one more thing.
Yep,
is that
go ahead.
we already got the 1,000 number intersection, and for the Burnaby, I think there's most of the intersection very close space. So I think it's good to do the intersection at this moment. Before, as I say, for example, Kingsway or Hastings, actually the intersection. That's why also we're doing corridor, right? That's also not only looking for the intersection, particular intersection. We also see the impact of the whole corridor. What look like? That's be more likely including some midport idea.
Thank you,
Eric.
One more question from Erica. Given that Burnaby was one of the early partners in ICBC's road improvement program, presumably some or most of these intersections have had a prior review. Could you comment on whether the study recommendations were implemented or not?
Well, that's a great question, Erica. I'm not too familiar, I guess.
I can add it. So yes, we do some study about the city of Burnaby also. We got some proposals, some recommendations the City of Burnaby to the road improvement program. I understand about that one, and then we promote. Yes, actually we go in the site. We did see a difference. We did see some improvement. So we did consider some recommendation already did it and implemented. So at the end, that's why also we have our drawing. We show there's some recent improvement and reason what to do. I remember I do the Canada Way about 15 years ago. I do the Canada Way corridor safety. Some already improved it, but some maybe based on the different reason, the city may not be implemented the recommendation. So yeah, you can remind them again to see how the improvement. If the collision pattern is still there, if the we still identify that same issue. Hopefully answer your question, Erica.
Thank you. We'll take one last question, and it's from Anna. Can you speak to how the city plans to prioritize the implementation of safety improvements?
Yeah, thanks, Anna, for that question. Well, basically, we'll be prioritizing it based on the coordination with city plan infrastructure and capital planning projects. And so in our 5 groups, we have it in sort of an order that we have planned based on priority, based on the annual casualty collisions. And in terms of individual implemented safety improvements, we'll have that forecast as well between the short, medium, and long term. And so if there's any really quick fixes that we can implement right away, even as early as this year, then that's what we'll strive to do, and then just continue to move that needle forward so that we can continue to make improvements accordingly.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, James. Thank you, Borg. And I thank you to all our attendees for making it out. Before closing off, I'd like to remind everyone of some upcoming events. Next month, on April 20th, we're teaming up with the Planning Institute of BC, PIBC, to host a multidisciplinary social event. It'll be held at the Pint Public House downtown, and registration's only $10. And then 2 months from now, towards the end of May, Clark Lim will be hosting a similar event to this. It'll be in person. It'll be an in-person presentation. So stay tuned for that. And lastly, thank you again for everyone making it out during their lunchtime. Thank you, James. Thank you, Borg. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care.